our podcast. We are back with our new season and day 4, continuing our week of spirituality, religion. And today's overall topic is going to be indoctrination, which Stephanie will be leading today, my fabulous co host. I'm just going to do Nicole's little energy forecast. And for anybody that is viewing at this time, you guys can refer to the Pluto retrograde in the indoctrination slide to give you guys an idea of what we will be talking about today. But with Pluto in retrograde right now, we're being asked to look at what has been unconscious, conditioned, and repeated. And indoctrination lives exactly in that space. So, what we were taught before we knew how to question. And with that, everybody, let today's energy just flow you in the direction of happy, happy, happy. And with that, I will transition over to Stephanie as we get into what is indoctrination.
Hello, everybody. So, this past week, we've been discussing spirituality, religion, and how they've shaped us. And whether you realize it or not, we have all been shaped in some shape or form, either by your family, by culture, religion, school, groups that you belong to, and even the ones that you may have left. One of the biggest forces that is shaping something that we don't talk about, or in shaping that we don't talk about, is indoctrination. With indoctrination, I know that is a big word and it might sound kind of scary, but um, it sounds extreme and something that happens to other people. It's like radical. We're that the cult word that a lot of people think about. But the truth is, indoctrination is a human process and not always malicious and not always obvious. And believe it or not, it's not always bad. So today we kind of want to discuss the lights and the shadow and maybe even a little bit of gray space um, in between that in indoctrination. And again, we're not shaming anyone's beliefs, but we just want to understand the mechanisms that shape us in our lives. So, starting off, what is indoctrination? Um, Oops, give me a second here. Looking at my notes. At its core, indoctrination is a process of shaping beliefs through repetition, authority, and emotional reinforcement. Not always evil, but it's not always good. So, simple mechanism is that humans have used over thousands of years to pass down values, traditions, and views. So, example of it showing up everywhere is childhood traditions, that your family starts as you're growing up. School rituals, military training, religious instruction, even in the corporate world, there might be some indoctrination, political movements, even wellness communities. So it's hitting us everywhere, all day long, every day. And one of the biggest ones right now even is social media. You know, just everybody how in tune they are with social media, how much they're on it. Um, but there's the psychological aspect as well. In it gives us the sense of belonging. It can give us our identity, and sometimes it gives us certainty and answers that we may be looking for, and it might even give us some safety, a feeling of safety, um, in situations that we may come in, avoiding punishment or exclusion. Um, but it's it's there every day, and sometimes it just gives us what we feel that we need. Um,
So
Nicole,
I
do you
would
have?
question, yeah, I would question, so what you're, so a simplified way of really looking at the word indoctrination could be beliefs that you're taught to accept as
Mm-hmm.
truth without questioning.
Correct.
So when Stephanie was talking about social media, that was a good one. I like how you brought that up because that's not something that I even thought about myself. What are you believing that you're watching in social media that you are just automatically assuming is true? And in a way, when you said that, I immediately kind of thought too of, people are like, oh, that's just an AI generated social media
Hmm.
text. It's not even a real person. Like, don't believe. That's kind of what kind of came to the forefront when you said that. And with schools, oh my goodness, can I relate to that? You already know how I am with
I knew
that.
you'd pick up on that one.
Oh, as soon as you said it, well, because it's important that we look at it from a full scope lens, because it's not about necessarily being right or wrong. It's about whether we're consciously choosing
Hmm.
or not.
Right.
So I really liked how you were sharing about that. So yes, please continue. I just wanted to drop my little reference
No.
of info.
Oh, I'm glad you did. You always have so much, to add to the conversation.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
so after talking about all of that, I want to start with the light because not a lot of people expect to hear that there's a light in indoctrination. So it actually gives us some of the most beautiful parts of being human. It gives us that, like I said before, belonging. So I'm feeling like I'm being held as part of a community. It gives us our values. So kindness, generosity, service, compassion, depending on what kind of community you're in, and the values that that community hold, that can define what you're showing out there. Like with me, with the organization that I work with, the veterans, there's the values of that organization. So it also can give us some structure or a discipline that helps us grow, or how we're developing throughout the years, depending, did this come on as a child? Is this, the beliefs as your family? And this is how, you know, you're growing into an adult based on that. Also, it gives us an identity, so a sense of who we are and where we come from. And that is what, depending on where you're at, that also defines, what your lifestyle is in your beliefs. So if you think about it, family teaching, generosity through those repeated rituals that you do. Is it your Christmas rituals, your Easter rituals,
Mhm.
your going to church every Sunday and Wednesday, or
Your traditions.
yes, in your
Yeah.
spiritual traditions as well, and even internalizing your discipline based on what you are raised with. And even say communities rallying around each other, like in moments of crisis or joy. So there's a lot of light form in indoctrination, and it's a tool for connection and culture.
So would you
So
say that, oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, so would you say that indoctrination can be like a starting point for
Yeah.
somebody, but not necessarily like a destination to like
Yes.
building those belief systems up?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as if you think about it, as a child, you were born into something, and you don't know anything. And so this is what you're being raised with and what you're being taught. So that's definitely your starting point in how you're going to live your life. So, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, like letting that be the opening source for you, but then over time, as you start to evolve on your own individual journey, be okay with questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Are those beliefs still working for me? Do I still identify with those, or could those be limiting me? That's kind of another light aspect of how to look at indoctrination, as well as we're in the light aspects of it. Because again, as Stephanie will share, there will be a shadow, but there will also be a gray area, which I'm really curious to know how that unfolds as well.
So I know that you grew up um, with a religious family. And how do you think that with that upbringing, where you saw light in that?
The traditions, I definitely like the holiday traditions. You definitely hit on the nose there. I really love the do unto others as you want unto yourself. I did like the community of it, in that regard, but then there were just, I wasn't able to individually identify within that structure, and that was difficult for me.
Do you see any of the light in your life today?
From
From
those
the,
original,
yeah.
yeah, because it definitely helped give some structures and belonging, and guidance there. So there's definitely a light that I still see within it. Um, but there's also a lot of things that I've evolved from within those beliefs that I've questioned, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, like I said previously, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and I mean, the community was amazing. I mean, a lot
Hmm.
of the people there were my family. And so it kind of crossed over into, my religious family, and my family just kind of crossed over into, the day to day. And I mean, I met just had a lot of amazing people around me, and I still do. And some of them are still those people. But, like I had previously stated, it just didn't, I just felt like I didn't, um, I don't know, it wasn't me. So, we
You
still
fit
hold a
in
lot of
every
those,
structure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Still hold a lot of those traditions and values, but just outside of that structure. So,
And the
um,
hard part with religion I'm sorry, some that could be difficult, or some lived experiences that people have had, is where it was a starting point and you felt like they were part of something, and then there was the difficult parts of kind of the shaming aspects. Like if you weren't following suit to every bit of the structure within
yep,
that religion, I think is where maybe the shadow aspects could
yep,
come to be, because some people would be like it's an individual journey, it's okay, and then others would kind of be like you're not following it right, you're going to go to hell, kind of
right,
a
yep,
thing. So yeah.
yep, yep. So I think now, um, this is a good spot for my purposeful pause. Um, as you were saying what you were saying.
It
Um,
means purposeful pause. There you go.
yes. So the light side of indoctrination can generally shape our lives in grounding, healthy ways. It's the mechanism through which we inherit shared meaning, cultural stories, and guiding values that help us understand who we are and how to move through this world. When it's functioning well, this kind of teaching gives us a sense of belonging, moral orientation, and continuity with the people who come before us. It can inspire purpose, strengthen identity, and offer a stable framework for making choices, especially in moments when life feels uncertain. In this gentler form, indoctrination is simply the human instinct to teach what we believe matters. Our stories, our ethics, our ways of making sense of the world. It can give people stability, identity, and a moral compass. But the same structures that help us grow can also quietly shape what we're allowed to question. When the transmission of ideas shifts from offering guidance to demanding obedience, the light begins to dim. And that's where the shadow side starts to emerge.
Perfect timing as we go now into transitioning into that shadow. I just love the way that you shared that, because I feel like there's a importance to really see something from a full scope, because we can tend to, throughout our own personal experiences, which is completely normal, look at it from a one perspective that could be kind of limiting or disempowering. So I just love the way that you're sharing this in a new light, and shedding light that's necessary, for seeing it from a more powerful lens. Even when we now transition into talking about the shadow aspects, not saying in a way to frustrate or create any kind of shame or guilt around it, but just to let you know that it, the shadow is when, where are we limiting ourselves, within that belief, right? Or
Right.
being blind without questioning. So if we can bring this into your awareness, we can then help you open up to conscious decision making, right? Instead of just blindly following.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that's perfect. Um, so, leading into the shadow of indoctrination, it can kind of get complicated. But it, and being in light, that mechanism that we look, that makes us happy and joyful, it can also be used to control us, like I said previously. So, and that's where indoctrination becomes harmful. When it shifts from shape, okay, just tongue tied. When it shifts from shaping to controlling. So, shadow indoctrination uses fear based teaching, information control, the us versus them thinking, like we're, this is who we are and we are the ones and they're out there to stop us or harm us. There's identity fusion, so there's no individuality, suppression of critical thinking, sometimes charismatic authority, and isolation from dissenting voices. So there's a lot of um, mind control happening, um, it little by little. It's something that starts off that you don't even realize until all of a sudden it's, whoa, what's going on here? Type of thing, if you realize it. So a lot of these types of things are happening in, let's say, maybe high control religious groups, extremist political movements, um, some of the wellness communities, maybe that are like demonizing medicine, like mainstream medicine. And again, back to the social media, those like echo chambers that radicalize through repetition. So, um, so we really have to be mindful of these things that are happening to us and how we're responding to them.
You know, when you were sharing just the shadow aspects, it was very interesting because even in breaking that down, right? It's um like the loss of your individuality
Yeah,
or living someone else's truth. Because like when you were sharing that, I was thinking to myself, well, I can get very set in my beliefs, right? But when is it that my beliefs am I trying to come off dominating rather than openly educating? Like this is
right.
really like as you were sharing that, because I was like, okay, wow, have I been in the shadow aspect of indoctrination unconsciously, not trying to create division, but or try to like discourage, like I want to keep an open sense of curiosity, right? So we
Right.
can fall victim or prey to indoctrination without necessarily realizing it if when our beliefs become so strong to us that we're forcing it onto other people's beliefs, even down to when you said about modern medicine. Because
Yeah.
of my own personal journey that I have had with medicine, I now am very much, you can go more natural. You can find more natural ways. So it's so, I just like, the light bulb that went off in my head as you were talking, and I was like, wait a minute. And that's where we want to be open to allowing people. The
Right.
difference between where I'm at is that it was unconscious, but then there's a difference of people who willingly, knowingly are like, you must follow this way, do not question.
Right.
That's where we want to really sit with ourselves and definitely start questioning even more, because if you're afraid to question something, that's where your awareness is trying to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not questioning it, then that means that we're almost kind of like stopping us from being able to evolve, right?
Right. And in your in what you're talking about with you, Nicole, I think that um, you're just very passionate about your journey and like the freedom that you have found, you know, in that. And um, I think that I kind of lost my thought there. Um, oh, it's okay.
We got
Put the
dogs doing
dog in the cage.
backflips right now.
Huh?
I said we got dogs doing backflips right now.
Yeah, in the cage. Um, but it's you're not trying to make everybody conform to one thing. You're helping them not conform but become who they they feel they should be or who their true self. That's what you're doing. You're not trying to make everybody the same.
There. Yes, 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 yes. I want it to be a natural integration of what feels right to you or
Right.
aligned to you. And this is what doesn't align with me or feel right to me. As in kind of looking deeper. Yes, yes, because inevitably that's what my intention was, but I could see where it's always important to reflect and try to remain aware so then that way we're not creating that,
Right.
because that's where I don't want any of my experience or my know-how to intimidate the person who might be wanting to understand that experience
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's uplifting instead of kind of like being pushed out. So I think with that, when we're talking about the shadow aspects, where that growth comes in
Yeah.
that same regard is because we're becoming aware of the pattern. So in this moment, live, guys, I had just a moment of where indoctrination, shadow, light, and now growth and integration can come in because it's like I want to be conscious on what I'm sharing, right? And just helping you to reconnect with what your own inner truth is and whatever that looks like, even if I could feel a certain way about any of it, whether it's alcohol or foods or medicine, whatever that looks like, it's still individual. Yeah,
Right.
it's still individual journey. And being mindful to allow yourself that space and grace for that individual journey to unfold
Right. Definitely. Yeah.
while
Being
you're in the shadow of it too, right? Because that's
yeah.
really where the growth is going to happen is when we're in that shadow and we're like, wait a minute,
Right.
this isn't working. This is limiting me. But can you share a little further on what you were mentioning about the gray area?
The gray area.
Yeah, between
Yeah.
the light and the shadow.
Yep. So, um, the it's kind of let's see here. How do I explain that? It's actually something that we all deal with. We just don't realize it. It's so say that the group that gave you community is now kind of discouraging. You're noticing some discouraging things, some questioning things, and that belief system that taught you compassion um, is now enforcing fear, or it's not allowing you to question things. So it's kind of the spot where you have all of the fluffy, you know, stuff going on that's making you feel like you're like your best person and you're enjoying the community and all of this, and then all of a sudden it's like wait a minute. So that's where the questioning yourself starts coming in, is that gray area before it becomes the shadow. So kind of like it could be even in your workplace, like the culture that you built in your teamwork is now being crushed, like each individual person. So I mean it's kind of complicated and I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but it's kind of where, let's see, your gratitude and resentment are coexisting.
Mm.
where your belonging and your autonomy are pulling against each other, and where loyalty and authenticity collide.
Yes, the tug and pull.
So,
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, I could so relate to that. Quick example, even with work, when you guys said just a simple way to bring you guys into what she is inferring to. The work environment, like you come in and we're a team and we're positive and we help each other out. And then in the next breath, you start noticing where, say, because I was a hairdresser right behind the chair at one point, and one of my many lives I've lived, and but then if it gets busy, being picky and choosy on this is a smaller one, but being picky and choosy on the clients that they're picking. Does that make sense? And then
yeah.
you start getting a little bit of resentment because you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sit well. And then it's just kind of like, nope, it's fine, just keep it going, it's not a big deal, ba 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 ba. And then before you know it, people are hiding in the bathroom instead of taking who is next on the list. And then you're like, wait a minute, is that kind of like a gray area example?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I have one. It's I haven't really talked about it a lot, but um so being in church, and all of a sudden you start slowly seeing that things that were done are slowly being pushed out, and things are now being changed and being done another way, and it's not making sense as to why this is happening. And um starting to now question why are we not doing the things that we were doing before, and now the Bible is not our source of truth anymore, and we're now using this something else, and is this just being made up?
Mm.
And
Like
now
grooming a little bit, is that a bad
yeah,
word to
now
use?
we're separating, and they're going this way and we're going this way, staying how we were. And so there's so before that happens, there's I'm trying to explain it without getting too detailed into the situation,
I mean,
but
in my eyes, I'm like, get as detailed as you can be without using people's names. And mine as well. Well, because then you bring people into your experience.
right.
Yeah.
So, your leaders in your church, your elders are now they're shunning people, and they're bu- their beliefs are completely changing into things that they're taking something so literal, and then just changing things to work for what they want to preach
Push
and get
out.
across to people. And um and just almost becoming, I don't want to use that word, but just indoctrinating, people to
I'll
create their
say
own.
culty.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what you meant there. Well, because as you're sharing that, I've had a lot of clients or people or experiences where they were similar. They were very similar where they would say, they grew up in this experience, they loved the community of it, and then there was an experience with somebody close to them who got pregnant at a young age. We'll use this as an example, okay? And when she got pregnant at a young age and her father was a pastor, um they put her in front of the entire church, in front of all these people, and humiliated her. Said, how wrong is it of what she did? Now the male who impregnated her wasn't there, wasn't involved, wasn't humiliated. And then was told about how, I don't know verbatim the words, but pretty much about hell, and
Mm-hmm.
how she needs to be forgiven for her sins, like a whole thing. And in that regard, that's where I feel that is not community. That is not providing a safe space. That is literally using a person to make an example of, to
Right.
create a fear, guilt, or shame. And those words, fear, guilt, and shame, should never be anything that is done in a place where you are trying to empower or create community, or trying to uplift. And in that, I
Right.
think that's the important aspect to talk about when talking about indoctrination and cult ways, because that I feel is more individual. I don't necessarily think that that's the whole organization of the religion
Right. Right.
necessarily. I think it was people who got into their power
Yep.
by disempowering other people.
Exactly. And the um, bringing in the gray would be those that saw what was happening early on and started questioning, okay, is this shaping me in a healthy way? Is this crossing the line? And now they're starting to question, and now they're being shunned because they're questioning.
Yep.
So that there, I think, is the gray area between the light and the shadow that people, this is where you can bring awareness to yourself
Yes.
of, is this really good for me, is this healthy for me, and to do that, like I said, the people that were shunned, just like, okay, am I allowed to question these core beliefs now? Am I being shut down? And if I disagree with what the beliefs are, or even outside of religion, um, what's happening when I'm questioning those beliefs? And am I being made to fear questioning, or am I being shamed for questioning? Am I being made to feel guilty to try to keep me in line with everybody else? And am
Hmm.
I free to leave? Or am I being told, if you leave, this could happen to you? The outside world is, horrible, and if you leave, you're opening up to all of these things. And
Creating a sense of being unsafe. Like that totally
correct.
aligns with school, not even just religion. Like you said, great teaching moment right here.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And things like, if I have a viewpoint, what happens when I give my view? Or am I no longer my own person? Am
Mm.
I tied to obedience? Do I have to be obedient to this person or this group of people? And are we now being told, like, some red flags? We'll call them the gray flags, I guess. Um, are they the only ones who know the truth? Are our group of people the only ones that know the truth, and nobody else does? And so you can't talk to anybody outside. Now they're limiting, cutting off your family, cutting off even talking to anybody. And
Mhm.
what if I start doubting, and you owe us loyalty because we've brought you in and we helped you create all of this, and now you owe us. And,
Oh,
and again, if you leave, bad things will happen. So I think that to try to stay out of that darkness, out of the shadows, in that sense, in indoctrination, is awareness. You need to be
mm.
aware, and you need to keep your own thoughts and beliefs, because then when you're doing that, what is trying to control you and bring you into keep you in that shadow side, loses power.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so true. That's so true. That's true. So true. It really, really is, because indoctrination says this is the truth. Awareness says, is it true for me? Because
Right.
truth feels like expansive, peaceful, grounded, right? Conditioning, I use the word grooming. Maybe I should use the word conditioning. Conditioning feels tight, fearful, and forced, like you
Right.
were just saying. And look at that on any level, whether it's
Right.
religion, whether it's political, whether it's family,
Yeah.
familial, because you could grow up in a family that raised you, that gave you a home, gave you food, put clothes on your back, and then when you move out, have expectations,
Yeah.
right? They expect you to do X, Y, and Z for them because they did that. I've always raised my children and myself to the understanding that you don't owe me shit.
Right.
If you decide that, there's not a relationship hereafter, as much as that would be devastating, and I would like to make that change, I've got to allow. That's the difference. And I love this conversation because it's so true. It doesn't only fall just to religion or spirituality, it
Right.
falls to where in your life, or are you um, falling subject to somebody else's truth because maybe you're not exactly sure what your truth looks like yet. And
Right.
that's okay. But the best way to keep and remain open is to keep remaining questioning. So with that, I want to share a couple tools with you guys since we're coming near the end of our time here is awareness check. Where did this belief come from? Good little moment of reflection there. Body checking. Does it feel expansive or constricted? Is what I'm learning and what I'm around making me feel tightened up and not free to question? Is this mine or was it given to me? That's a big one.
Yep.
Like, what is my belief and what is a belief that I've took on to somebody else? Is that necessarily isn't mine? And being okay with if it's different, because if your world gets flipped upside down to where this community that you once had is no longer a community that you can have be moving forward, be okay with them falling away, because people come in for a season, a reason, or a lifetime, but their lessons and their teachings. Okay, and know that if people fall away from you, people who are more aligned with the beliefs of you will start to replace those false beliefs or those false systems that you no longer feel empowered with. And like I always say, discernment, discernment, discernment. Does this empower me or limit me? Your discernment is really a huge tool on your journey. So rewrite the belief. The old is I have to the new being I choose to. Okay. And then your nervous system will support that, because when we question beliefs that feel unsafe, we can then begin to ground and regulate. You can't rewrite beliefs in survival mode. In indoctrination culture, people who are mindfully trying to do this to you will keep you in a sense of survival mode. So reminding yourself, am I in a group setting that is keeping me using these survival tools, or am I in a group setting that is allowing and nurturing and is soft and is inviting and is more freeing? Just in the way that I articulate that, you could feel the difference, right? So just really listening to your body and what that feels like. You don't have to reject everything you were taught. You don't have to accept everything either. You
Right.
can honor your roots without being rooted in limitation.
Right. The goal is to become conscious of it, and you say this all the time, to choose what stays and what goes. You know, take what
Conscious
resonates
living.
and leave what doesn't.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I say that all the time because that gives you freedom to choose. We have freedom of choice, guys. And I know that a lot of us grew up not realizing that, but you get to shift at any time. And with that, I mean, that's where your power lives. If we just stay stagnant with, this is all I ever knew. And you'll hear that. You'll hear that with a lot of people. Or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's another one. You sure can. I'm 41 years old. You sure can. You can reparent yourself at any time if a belief has outrun its course for you. And that is completely okay. And any system that you're a part of will allow that evolution to unfold for you without trying to control you. So be open to have those conversations, because it's in those uncomfortable conversations that you'll start seeing and peeling back layers of what was somebody else's belief and what is yours that you want to move forward with. So, um, with that, I don't want to close you off in case there's anything else that you would like to finish with, Steph, because you led this conversation and you did a great. I just want to let our audience know out there, Stephanie got thrown right into this, have never done this before, and she has been actively doing what she can to show up, conversate, and educate in a way that can be inspiring and bring clarity and upliftment. And I just love that. So I want to give a moment of kudos to you on that. I'm serious because I've been doing this on and off for years of just throwing my face out there, and I'm still. Listen, we're always learning, but I appreciate that you take this time out because you feel that this is something that is meaningful to you and meaningful for people to know. And I just love that. And I thank you for sharing that space and even opening me up to some things that I was unconsciously doing, unaware of, and understanding the gray area within it too, right? So I just love that. I want to take that moment. where this is usually Tina's reflection time to kind of reflect on that with you. And for our viewers today, we talked about indoctrination. We talked about what the light of it looks like, how it is a beautiful starting point on your journey, and where the shadow aspects can come up, but just to be aware of them. And with that, before I close, I'll send over to Stephanie any reflections she would like to share of today's show.
Just know that indoctrination is part of all of us in our everyday life, in the light, in the shadow, the good, the bad, you know, the messy. But don't be afraid to question what you're being told, and have your own opinions and bring things to attention, and have your own mind. You are an individual. You are not a robot. And you owe it to yourself to be that individual person, be your true self, and live live the life the way that you want to live it.
Free your mind and the rest will follow. That popped
Exactly.
when you were talking, that just came through my head, and I was like, I'm gonna say
Yep.
it. Beautiful, love it. Okay, guys, we're all set for today. We're closing up this week. We talked about spirituality, religion, the light and the shadow, indoctrination. Tomorrow, we will have Tina back on to close out the week, and we will just sum up the reflection of everything that we spoke about this week, as well as integrating into next week. Well, we will dive into female archetypes, saints, archangels. So, no matter what you believe in, we will talk about all of the beautiful spiritual energy that is around and within us next week. We also have a special guest that will be on next week too. But I'm not going to go. I know, I'm so excited.
Shush.
Well, right. Well, I'm excited because she's going to be talking about a certain female archetype, and it's in theme because with the Uranus and Gemini transit, this certain archetype falls right into that current energy. So it's going to be great when she shares it, and she's a Gemini too. So we're excited, but we're going to end today's segment. Thank you guys for joining, and as I always say, if you woke up today, it's because your soul still has purpose on this planet. So I ask of you to please continue to live it as authentically true to you as possible, because you were made uniquely you for a purpose. And we're here to help you find clarity and space in your life so then that way you can figure out what that purpose is for you. Love and light, beautiful souls. We'll be back at you tomorrow. See ya.